Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have with me Miss Carol Stanley. Hey, Carol.
Hey, how are you, Kimberly?
I am great. I am so happy to have you here. And hopefully by the end of this, we'll have people standing up on the stage and feeling no fear. So, but just so people know who you are, I'm going to go ahead and read your bio.
Okay.
So, voice and presentation skills expert trainer Carol Stanley guides business owners, entrepreneurs, church leaders, and aspiring speakers and singers to gain confidence, poise, and command over voice, body, mind, and spirit based on the science and physiology of voice and presentation. They transform from unsteady, shaky, and fearful to capable, confident, and compelling presenters who make big impact on audiences large and small or on camera. Whether they speak or sing boldly or stand with power and impact without saying a word, these transformed presenters inspire, motivate, lead, and achieve to make the difference they are on the planet to make for the moments that matter the most. All right, so I want to hear how you got into this, and you can start anywhere. Some people start in childhood, some people start with an event that made them say, "Hey, I'm going to do that." So, whatever your story is, we'd love to hear it.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Kimberly. Well, I popped out of the womb singing, I think. I really do. I think that my mom, I remember her telling stories of me being in the cradle, and my dad was a professional musician. So he would be playing, and I would be tapping my foot to the music. Isn't that funny? So the way God put our brains together, it's very interesting because females are females from the moment of conception, and because the brain is actually different than a male's brain, ever so slightly, and that's a whole nother subject. But I remember very distinctly loving music and loving to be in front of people, which is kind of crazy because I also have experienced in my life. I've done a lot of, I've done a lot of singing and acting up through the years, and I remember one time, oh my gosh, I was filling in for the Miss America of that year. And I went out on stage very confident, very, my usual thing. And I hit a blank that I had never had happen to me before. And so totally freaked me out that I wouldn't go out on stage again without some sort of a cheat sheet, even to the point of, like I like to share, I had a baby prop in my hand for a song, and it was Jenny Rebecca, 4 days old. How do you like the world so far, with the words taped on her face? Yeah, I got good at cheat sheets. But anyway, that whole, I just continued to sing in church, to sing concerts, to develop programs, and train people all these years. I love training, and I got the opportunity to work with Marnie Nixon, who was a fabulous trainer, a fabulous singer. She's now passed on, but she was the voice for Natalie Wood in West Side Story. She was the voice for, Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady more recently, and Deborah Carr in King and I, of the original big uh, fancy movie. I loved it. I got to play Anna in one of the Broadway shows I did. But anyway, it's been a wonderful ride because I truly I discovered early on that what meant the most to me was family and having, a husband and children and so forth. But I'm a have your cake and eat it too kind of girl. So I've always found ways to direct and train and create my own my own concerts and so forth, so I could have that influence over audiences, because I love it. I truly do.
Beautiful. So you started out singing, and then
Mm-hmm.
you trained, and um, what are some of the shows that you've been in?
Well, I did King and I, and I that was one of my favorites. One of the first ones I ever did was I was playing Daisy May and Little Abner, which is a fun show. You don't see that anymore, but it was a really fun show of its day. And then let's see. So yes, King and I've done Marion the Librarian in Music Man. I've done Ruth in Pirates of Penzance. I've done Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Some of those adult shows where you're playing a kid are really fun. They're really fun, fun, fun. I like them a lot. But yeah. And then I'm trying to think what else. Oh my gosh, I've done lots of dance band performances, and I've done a lot of directing of other people on stage, which I love doing. Yeah, it's great.
I'm just curious, what kind of musician was your father?
He keyboardist. He was a concert pianist, but he was a jazz organist. He loved. So I grew up with a lot of lush chords, and jazz in my background, and I dearly love like Ella Fitzgerald, and I grew up with a lot of big entertainers, yeah, in my ears.
Yes, yes, for sure. And then, um, how did you get into training?
Well, it's interesting. I thank you for asking because I was doing a lot of performing, and people would come up to me and say, "Hey, I've got a high school student that, would you be willing to teach her voice?" And so anyway, I started in, and because I had trained with Marnie Nixon, who was very famous and excellent, she was super. I've got all her tricks in my back pocket. But because I had done all of that, I thought, okay, I can do this. Plus, I mean, I had a schooling background of being able to train people. So anyway, long and the short of all that is I started in with, because people would bug me to train their kids. And of course, then I evolved into working with adults in all kinds of situations because yes, singers are, it's a fascinating, wonderful journey. People that think they can't sing absolutely probably can. If they can meet pitch, then I can train them the rest of the way because of the way the voice really works. And like I say, I've been able to work with some really fabulous trainers that have taught me so much. But the new voice by Alan Green is one of the pedagogies that I use and have developed with my own pedagogy because it literally rebuilds the voice. And it's just so cool. Alan worked with Harry Belafonte and, oh gosh, Walter Matthau and lots of famous people. But his method, one student came to me years ago, and her choir teacher had told her she could not, she wanted to do solo work. And he told her, nah, you're not a soloist, don't bother. But she came to me and she said, can you help me? And I said, if you're willing to go through this process with me, absolutely. And I was blown away at how effective it was. This was early on when I first started using it. I was blown away at how effective it was for fixing any and all of her little mishaps because of what it does. I didn't have to be the genius. All I had to do was take her through the process and watch the magic happen. And it was so cool because she worked hard for a few months, and then she entered the first Miss America pageant local, took first runner up, first time out singing a solo. And that sent her then to what we call in the Seattle area Miss Seafair, which is another big pageant that the runner-up person goes to as opposed to the state Miss America. So anyway, she goes to that one and she wants to sing and dance because she's really a dancer. And they told her, nah, not a good idea, which again, trying to be sure that the kid doesn't, totally embarrass themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, sure you can. Let me show you how, because I have a dance background as well. And she did too. So between the two of us, we got her all choreographed and even with a corded mic, just in case she didn't have a cordless, and she took the crown. That kid went out there and just killed it. And I just love that story because if she had believed her choir teacher, she never would have done any of that. Mm-hmm. And she's a professional speaker today. And again, with the physiology I took her through, if you're whether you're a singer or not, if I take you through this process, you will become a great speaker because voice is voice is voice. And it's all of you. It's what I call the sweet spot of your voice. It's how your head is thinking and working. It's understanding the two vocal chambers and your body, because all three speak volumes.
That makes sense because you can tell, when you're nervous, you talk way up high and your throat's kind of closed and
Yes. Yes.
everything's kind of stiff. And when you're happy and you're laughing out loud, everything's just falling out loose and full.
Yes.
And when you're singing, that's kind of how you want it to be, like happy.
Well, and you have to have open chambers. You have two vocal chambers and they have to both be open. And that's the magic of the physiology piece, is helping people understand how to build strength into the throat opening muscles, if you will, and learn how to lay down the constrictors, because you have two sets of muscles in that area. And try and smile and pucker at the same time.
You can.
They're opposite. That's right. They're opposite. And that's exactly what happens when you go from the shower to the stage. Shower, everything's open, right? Stage, you get tight. And and that's the constrictors protecting you, but you learn how to relax them away so that now just your throat opening muscles are working. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant what happens. It's lovely what happens. So it gives a person a new sense of confidence in their voice, because they're not always walking out on stage or platform or in front of a Zoom camera feeling like, oh my God, what if my voice doesn't work for me today? Because that's always, it's always this deep, dark, secret kind of thing, our voices, and we never know when they're going to cop out. But if you understand how God put the voice together and work with how he put it together, you're never at a loss for a quality voice, whether you're speaking or singing. Yeah.
And, sometimes you hear of singers who, they're doing a lot of singing and they lose their voice, or
Yeah.
they have something go wrong with their vocal cords where the doctors say, hey, you need to not sing for a little while. And what's happening there? Is it because they were doing something incorrect?
No, the vocal cords are they're very susceptible to injury. And it's amazing that any of us can even talk after coughing, because they get, when you cough, the cords get slammed around. It looks like an explosion is going off when you look down, in a scope. The truth is, if you're not singing with openness, you're pushing too hard on those cords, and you can damage them. You really can. You can, when you wake up in the morning, you got the froggy voice. Well, there's a wonderful exercise that I use that takes that frogginess away. And it's a healthy way because all it is the cords have swollen because of drainage dripping through them all night long. So now when you wake them up gently, you're good to go, and it cleans. And I used to go into the TV studio and 7 a.m. have to warm up to sing, right, for a program. And everybody would go, oh, how do you do that? Because I would be up in the stratosphere and, very clear, very clean. And well, I just said, well, I have a trick. I know what to do on the way in here. And it's true. And it has saved my life and many singers' lives a lot. Because it's this little crazy little thing called witchy cackles. And you'll hear the squeak.
Uh-huh.
But that is actually cleaning the edges of the cords for you.
Huh.
And I do it 1 3 5 3 1 is in pitch. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a singer or not, we work that way because you need to understand how the voice works. Yeah.
That is so cool. Now, what does your posture or how you hold your body have to do with everything?
Well, it has everything. I teach something called stature. It's the word I like to use. But you pull up, straight up in the air, pull out, and then drop your arms and leave your chest where it is. Because I guarantee you, most women carry their chest way too low and round shoulders. Mm-hmm. And so if you if you, what the stature piece does for you is it helps to align ear to shoulder to waist to knee, or hip to knee to ankle to floor, right? So now you're straight, and now you can truly let the diaphragm expand. Most teachers will work the diaphragm first, and there's nothing wrong with that, except that if your head is in your gut, if you will, is in your diaphragm, you will be closing your throat,
Mm-hmm.
guaranteed. So what you want is to understand this system so it can stay open, and it triggers correct breathing. If this system is working right, the two chambers here, then it triggers the body breath. And so the your stance is very important, because if I walk out on stage kind of all slumped over like this, you're not impressed immediately. You kind of think, what's wrong with you, right? But if I walk out with my head high, my body straight, and with lots of love and energy, right? Or something that I call hail. It's honest, authentic, integrity bound, and love. You walk out with hail, right? Then you're all set. You really are, because your body, if you ground your body, because after the you pull up, you pull out, you drop your arms, then you feel your hips, your feet are just under your hips straight, and then you feel the earth up through your feet, and then you put your core down into the ground between those 2 feet. I can't push you over. Once you've grounded your body, and we have a bungee cord that goes from the crown clear up into the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're grounded and your bungee, your energy is high up in your body, you are very, very grounded. Your mind grounds as well. So now it's easier for you to really execute appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fascinating how it all works.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering about singing. So,
Uh-huh.
some of us seem to sing on tune and some of us don't sing on tune. So why is it that sometimes people will go flat, or they think
Yeah,
they're singing on tune, but they're not singing on tune?
they've not learned to identify pitch and be sure they're with the pitch. A lot of people, if they've never been sung to as little people, or if they have never bothered really to understand the power of listening and matching what you're hearing, then yeah, they can go off because they're singing off the top of their lungs, and to an artist, right? Usually it's in the car singing along with somebody,
Mhm.
and you have no clue what you're doing
Mhm.
because you've never developed what the skill of listening and meeting pitch. A couple of women came to me years ago for voice, and they wanted desperately to sing. They had been told they were singing off key. So I did decide to help these gals. And because usually if most people can meet pitch, they really can. I'll play a couple things on the piano and they'll be right with me. And then if that's the case, I know I can do wonders with them. Well, these gals, one of which for sure had never learned to meet pitch. So I took her through a whole process with the piano, um, of, of meeting, teaching her how to listen and meet. And I've worked with, and what happened was ultimately she got it. She really did. She got it. She started listening and matching what she wanted or what was around her, right? And and so she went on, and I took her through the whole voice thing, and she blew everybody away. She really could sing. And I've worked with special needs, Down syndrome young man, where he was driving his mom nuts because he thought he was going up in pitch when he was just going louder. And but I got him to meet pitch, and I'll tell you, that kid really developed. I took him through the whole physical process, and and then I started working with him with tracks, with orchestrations, and where we would, and I gave him uh, things to do it to this, like for instance, it's singing in the rain. So we had our umbrellas, and and would put them down at one point, and a little choreography,
Mhm.
and he just did great, and he learned that he learned he really could. He had a couple octaves, as it turned out, where good singers have 3 octaves. You've got 3 octaves to work with, and sometimes more, depending on who you are and how God's put you together. But this gentleman he was such a delight, and he had 2 singing octaves that he could literally use, and he did a great job. So it's always fun for me in that you take somebody who is not a singer in everybody else's mind and turn them into singers. It's just so joyful for everybody. It's
Right.
really cool. Yeah.
And sometimes when people sing, their voice is so thin. Like we love that big, booming, open, vibrato
Right.
voice. And
Well,
some of us try and sing, it's just this little mousy.
right. Right. And that's because they're not open. And they're trying to hear. Most people are listening more than they're paying attention to what they're really doing. And so, for instance, if I'm working with a workshop, I'll have people do things like, and just do this with me right now, Kimberly. Go, whoo, like hootie owl.
Woo!
Feel, okay, do it again. Whoo,
Woo!
deep hootie owl. Whoo, feel,
Woo!
and when you do it, yes, feel the openness in your back of your throat.
Oh yeah, I feel it in my everywhere in my like stomach, my solar plexus, my
Yes,
chest, everything opens up. Just saying
yes,
woo. So we just need to
just
be owls.
so yeah, well, but that's just to bring awareness. And when I'm doing a workshop, that awareness piece is huge, because now all of a sudden, all of us playing hootie owl, right? We're starting to understand, ooh, there is a difference. I feel this differently. And the feel thing is the important piece. And then I'll have them do sirens where you start low and you go way up high, right? And doing those sirens helps you to understand the other what I call forward element of the voice. Hootie owl is dark and back in, it's that if you were putting color to it would be very dark.
Hmm.
And the sirens are very bright and very forward. But the truth of it is, the sweet spot of your voice, you sit right in the middle of those two.
Mm.
And opening up gives that to you on a silver platter when you understand the muscles. In other words, I work physically with you. You're not singing right away. We're working physically with the muscles.
Hmm.
Uh, the mylohyoid right here, which is what lowers the larynx. It's amazing what the mylohyoid, because you've got sternohyoids right here as well that attach to the sternum. So when you open up, it triggers correct breath, sternum breath. Yeah. Anyway, it's a really fun process. I love it.
That's so interesting. And I have another question about that because this is such
Sure.
an interesting topic. So I love watching America's Got Talent because they have all sorts of singers on there. And there have been times where you look and there's this person that looks like he's 14 years old and he comes on and he sings
Big
down
voice.
here like the lowest voice is like, wow, where did that come from? Or you see
Right.
a child and they come in and they're singing like a 30-year-old woman and like were they just born with these pipes or what how is it that we get
Well,
so many
it,
sounds and how do you end up with what you end up with?
yeah, and I was singing young too, and then you can get into some bad habits, which I did as well, with voice when you're singing young. Uh, the thing that, like, you got the kid that comes out and the big voice. They simply learned how to open. We God gave us the ability to mimic, and we are great at it. So when young children listen to really good vocal production, they tend to copy it,
Mm.
and if they're really interpreting it correctly, they will open up. Because when you're young, you haven't developed a lot of bad vocal habits, really, or you shouldn't have at this point. And so, just that God-given gift of mimicry helps a person open up. And some children are just great at copying those sounds. And that helps, obviously. And then, too, some of them have been trained to enhance what they're doing. But it's all, the thing is, God gave you a voice, He said, make a joyful noise. And he wouldn't have said that if he didn't know you could, he knows you can. Yeah.
That's that. Yeah, that is so true. And speaking of that, now you work with Christian women.
Uh-huh.
What you're doing with that?
The thing is, at this stage in my life, I don't know how many years I've got left, right? None of us do. But I finally got my latest book written called Born to Be Awesome.
Mhm.
And I love this because it's really my, oh gosh, it's really my legacy piece, because I take you through, it's a guide. It's Born to Be Awesome, a guide to presenting with brilliance on stage or camera through the power of God in you. So I have scriptures that back up everything that I'm saying and doing, but uh, there's just a multitude in here in this book of helping people understand what the voice really is. And of course, I tell my stories because I have stories in the book. But I love helping the church, if you will, the beautiful Christian women who want to be good leaders, and or men. I mean, I work with men too, but my favorite is to work with women. And God really has called us to excellence. And if we were to all step into that excellence as He's called us to, then you know what? The world will be beating down our doors, wondering what in heck we have. We tend to want to copy the world, or this is my interpretation. Okay, we tend as singers in popular Christian worship music, etc. We tend to be kind of copiers of what we hear out there instead of understanding and bringing absolute excellence to the forefront with how we're writing, with how we're most importantly, how we're executing what we've written. And that's just a pet thing of mine. I want all worship singers to be stepping into absolute excellence and understanding their job. Oh my gosh. Because if they get up on platform and they immediately close their eyes and block you, that's not their job. Their job is to engage you, invite you in with them. And that requires you to understand stature, to understand vocal excellence, to understand how to read a room, how to read the energy in the room, because it's real, and truly invite everybody in with you so that everybody is experiencing true, lovely worship of God. And that's one of my passions. It truly is, Kim. It's become more so in the last few years, and so I'm working with solo artists in the church right now, mostly.
Wow, and I never even thought of it that way, but that's true. If you present, if you sing anything,
Mhm.
you want to connect with your audience. You're sending a message and your love and your light out to them. Like
Yes,
so many times when we do worship, like you'll have a worship team up there, and the worship teams are so into their. It's almost like the worship team's up there doing their thing, and then the rest of us are sitting out here, hopefully doing our thing, but almost like we're not connected because.
exactly. Because you shut off. There's nothing wrong with closing your eyes and worshiping God. However, if you're on platform, you cannot do that right away. And if you do it at all, do it after you know that you know that you know everybody is worshiping with. So that you're connected. My camera is following my hands. Uh, it's so important that we are truly, well, I say perform. Now, everybody freaks out in the church when I say that word, but it's the meaning of perform is to do your best. We
Mhm.
better darn well be doing our best, and to entertain. They always freak out at that word too, but what it really means is to invite in with you. And in fact, one of the dictionaries I came across, it actually said to invite Christ in, to entertain Christ. And I thought, I like that. But the point here is that we better be inviting in, and we better be doing our best work. And my experience has been that an awful lot of worship leaders do not understand that invite in piece or the excellence piece.
Mhm.
Some obviously do, but it's rampant in my experience, that most worship groups will listen to the recordings of what's out there now, right? And then try and duplicate. Well, that, you know what, copying somebody other than like the 10-year-old who is copying good vocal stuff, it really doesn't work, because it has to be, you have to own it. It has to be, you have to own the message so you can paint the pictures for them. So if you're simply copying sound or copying whatever, you're never going to reach excellence, because your understanding of what they're doing is not very good. In other words, are you really understanding the vocal production you're hearing? Because as adults, we have the ability to really understand. And copying anybody never sells well. It just doesn't.
No, no, it really doesn't. Now, you had a book before this one, I
Yeah, it
think,
was called Incredible Life, and I don't have a copy of that with me. I apologize, but
which
I
is
was it.
cool.
It was it. Yeah, Incredible Life. Well, it was a multiple um, author book, and mine was the largest the largest chapter, because it was something to the effect of one of the ones I've got in my own in this book. Let me see. Uh, let's see here. What you think really does matter but it was something to that effect. That chapter, even though it's a brand new chapter in my book, Born to Be Awesome. But yeah, it was a multi, and so it mine was. They made me take out some of my scriptural references, because it was a secular book for sure. But I gave some really good tips and really good stuff in that chapter of Incredible Life. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And, now that you've been doing this many years, a lot of times once people have been doing something for a while, there's other things they're doing. Like I only work with patients 2 days a week because I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
Yes.
I have
Yes.
I'm doing other fun things, or there's other family things, or,
Yeah.
what things are filling your days?
Well, I tell you, uh, I raised my children in our home in what's called Twin Lakes in Federal Way, which is just a suburb city south of Seattle, and very large home. And we were there for 56 years, raising our family. And we had a fire last December 5th, 23, a fire that was crazy, but it was an extension cord plugged into the wall, but not anything else, that my dog, that started a spark and started to smolder. And we didn't catch it till it had gone to full flame, because it was upstairs in the master bedroom. And I tell you, I had no idea how destructive smoke billowing through your upstairs can be to everything. So yeah, we had to move out. So my days have been filled a lot, because we've been in a rental home now for the whole last year. Have been filled with the lovely company, Superior Contents Company, that salvaged what they could from my home and cleaned it to bring back to me. I lost all my furniture. Anything soft, you lose,
Mhm.
because they can't get the smoke out. But anyway, I have a client coming, and so so my dog's going crazy. But anyway, I've been going through boxes and trying to make this now my home until they get my home, my big house, which is a 7-bedroom, 4-bathroom home. Won't be done probably for another year. I mean, it's just unreal how insurance companies can delay processes to the point that you just but we're happy here, so we're good. But that's been taking up a lot of my time, and working with my dog, and just lots of uh, I love having coffee with my husband in the morning and talk, and then we'll have time, and we call it cocktail time for our dog, but it's we like to come back together in the late afternoon and just sit and talk too, because we're both busy.
Wow. So how long have you been married?
60 years,
Oh,
60.
congratulations. That's the big one.
It is. I get it. Yes.
Wow. Okay. So anybody that's been married that long, I always ask this question. What's the secret to staying with someone for 60 years?
You know what it is? And this is a truly gut honest answer. It is putting your hand up, grabbing the Lord Jesus Christ's hand and following his word. And I tell you, because it'll immediately take you out of your poor me, because let's face it, when you've been married as long as I have you had have I had moments of like I'm out of here? Yes, I have. And I remember I was making the bed one morning and I was listening to a radio show, and the gal was saying, "Now I guarantee you, ladies, if you'll just sit down and think about why, all the good qualities of the man you married, I guarantee you'll, stop being so grumpy, right?" And I thought, oh my gosh. And what's interesting is when you choose your thoughts as opposed to just running with what your emotions are doing, because we as girls can all get kind of flipped out, right? And I the minute I started doing that, I sat down in the bed and I said, "Oh Lord, I'm so sorry. Because I was being kind of a poop." We all can do that, right? Because we get into ourselves more than the other person. Anyway, long and the short is, um, my whole physiology shifted when I shifted my thought process, because that's truly what happens. Your whole, and I talk about that in the book too, is that your whole physiology will change when you do what God says, which is take every thought captive unto what would Jesus do, right? And it's amazing what happens. So, and I remember after about 25 years of marriage and three teenagers at the time, I have four kids total, but at the time, let's see, was it? No, I actually had all four, I guess. Anyway, long and the short, I took off with my stage doll, she's a life size stuffed mannequin, and drove down the coast to see my friend Susan Stafford in LA, and then across to Phoenix, which is where I was born and raised, Phoenix, Arizona. And so I spent about a good month on my own, just kind of praying and thinking and, trying to get my act together. And my husband did too. And what was interesting, had he not reached up and grabbed God's hand, and had I not, we probably would have split. But we both wanted the marriage to continue to work, and but it took both of us reaching up and grabbing for real, owning our relationship with Christ. It makes all the difference in the world, because it truly gives you a new way to think.
I
And
agree. Yeah,
yeah,
that is wonderful. Well, if people wanted to connect with you, get your book, work with you, how do they find you?
they can go to carolstanley.com. I have voiceperformancecoach.com also, but carolstanley.com. So there's two L's. They can hook up with me right there. You can get the book on Amazon. Uh, it's on barnesandnoble.com as well, and zulonpress.com. But Amazon gives you a pretty good price on it. It comes in hardback, softback, and Kindle.
Mhm. Oh, wonderful. So now I have a personal question.
Yes.
What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
Gosh, hearing from my adult kids, that is, I love FaceTime and Zoom, because it's like you're just together, you're just there with them. Um, yeah, because my family means a lot to me. And I took care of mom and dad for a good, oh my gosh, almost 20 years, because mom was going through Alzheimer's. And so I took a step back sabbatical to take care of them. I continued to teach, but I was doing less. I stopped doing workshops and so forth. But anyway, family means a lot to me. My golden doodle has taken a good spot in my life, because my kids are all grown and have their own families. But yeah, what brings me the most joy truly is being with my husband, my dog, and when I can with my kids. Yeah, it really does. The other thing is, I come alive when I'm working with somebody, and I love that. I love being with my clients. And when I see them accomplishing so much, that's a huge thrill for me to see them bloom. So I guess I'm into people.
Yes, you are. So, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for all your wisdom and your fun stories. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Kimberly, I just so appreciate you. And I want people to get a hold of you and work with you, and because you are truly a delight. You really are. And I'm so glad we had this time.
Oh, well, thank you. So, I have one last question before we finish.
Okay.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Best advice. And I'm gonna sound like a parrot here, repeating, but the best advice is to get into the word of God and follow it. Read the book of John, first of all, and then go from there, wherever you want to go in the word. That makes such a difference in life. It changes how you perceive, how you think. It changes everything for the better. Absolutely. So that's my deal.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Carol.
Thank you, Kimberly.
We'll talk to you again soon.
You got it.